Hey everyone, Nathan Rose here. I'm the author of the Chess Opening Names series of books, and I'm also an enthusiastic adult improver. Over the last few years, I was able to get my chess.com rapid rating from around 1600 to over 2100. And in this video, I'm going to take you through how I was able to win a game against a strong opponent. You can see my opponent's rating here, 2098. That's a strong player. Yeah, you don't get to a rating like that by pure luck. You have to outplay these guys. So I think anyone who has played chess to a decent level knows that the videos you see around opening traps, these can be used to win against beginners, those who don't really know what they're doing. But once you get to these higher levels, you really do have to outplay these guys. So by looking at my thought process, what I was thinking during the game, I think you'll be able to learn something from this and improve your own play. Before we get into the game, I'd like to ask that if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel. I do all kinds of content around chess, including tips on how to improve, game reviews like this one, and also info about the heritage of the game and the game's history. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any episode. Right, so into the game. I've got the white pieces and I start out with e4, we get c5, the Sicilian, knight f3, I play the open Sicilian, so we get d4, captures in the center, plays a6, the idea is to stop a piece from coming to b5, and I go for the Maroczy bind setup. Knight f6, attacks the pawn, I defend. Queen c7 is a move designed to prevent me from playing e5. And now I play the move a3. And already I want to stop and give a tip here, because we played 6 moves each. This has just been my 7th move. And it's important, I think, at this level to know your opening theory. There's different thoughts on the value of opening theory. Some people say that you don't really need to worry about it, just play natural developing moves, but I think at this level you do need to have some of the moves memorized. And the way that I do this is using Chessable. So we've now just switched over to my Chessable account, and one of the great features of Chessable is that you can program in your own sequences of moves so that you can review them anytime you like. This is what I do, so you can see here, this is exactly how the game that we were just reviewing started. Black's played a6, I go c4, knight f6, knight c3, queen to c7, and then I play this move a3. The idea of a3 is to prevent bishop b4, which is, as it turns out, quite an annoying pin. Pins the c3 knight, introduces a threat on the e4 pawn, because the knight on c3 is pinned, right, if bishop b4 is allowed. And so it's important to know this. It's not the first move that comes to mind perhaps. You might just develop normally with a move like bishop e2, but in my Chessable I've got it programmed so that that is considered wrong. And yeah, if I had played that during the game, I'm sure that Black would have played bishop b4. So a3 is the move, and then we get b6, and the game continues. But that's the first tip. You need to know your openings. Okay, so back to the game. I've just played a3 to prevent bishop b4, and so instead we get b6, normal development with bishop e2, bishop e7. Now there's some pressure on e4, so I defend that one with f3. And then Black plays bishop d6. Now this is not a move that I recognized, so I had to stop and think here. The first point of this move is that if I play the natural move of castling without thinking, then Black wins a pawn, right? Bishop takes h2 with check. So I can't castle. Pretty quickly here, through my knowledge of thematic tactical ideas, I found the following idea of knight d b5. Okay, if I just put this on the board, the idea of this is that it hits the queen, it also hits the bishop, and it also introduces a discovered threat from the queen all the way from d1, like opening up the d file. Black can take this knight, of course, but then I've got another knight ready to replace it. And you know, if black just moves their queen out of the way, that's the dream scenario, because now I get the piece back with check, and I've also gained a pawn. So white is totally winning in this line. But before entering into this, I did stop and think. Just because that you've got a thematic tactical idea in mind doesn't mean that you can't, doesn't mean that you get to just play it without thinking. Every position is slightly different, so I was thinking to myself, does black have any checks, captures, or threats? Because once I play knight d b5, there's no turning back. I did end up playing it, but I spent about 2 minutes before playing it. Like my clock here, 15:22, my clock after playing this move, 13:27. So about 2 minutes spent before playing this move, just checking everything out. Because as it turns out, black does have a check partway down the line. And I saw this coming, so he does take, I take back, and black can get his bishop off d6 with check, giving it up in better circumstances, right? So just rather than just allowing the knight to take it, he gives a check, which forces me to take the bishop with the pawn, and then he recaptures with his queen with check, and my king has to lose castling rights. So opponents at this level, 2000 plus, are always going to try and extract something. Like even if they're surprised by a tactic, they're going to find the way of continuing which causes the most problems. Now, according to the computer, white is doing very well here, but I think it takes some understanding of the position to believe this. Because, okay, material is actually equal. I didn't win anything out of that sequence. We each lost a pawn. I was able to gain black's dark squared bishop, and he was able to gain one of my knights. So according to the traditional points value of pieces, where pawns are worth 1 point, knights and bishops are worth 3 points each, we're equal. But why is white doing so well here? I mean, white's lost the right to castle. The black queen looks quite active. You can imagine that after black castles, which is what he did during the game, that black might look to launch an attack. And with white's king in some trouble, maybe black can turn things around. And this is what led me to stop and think for some more time here, because I've got to think of how to continue now. Like I've got my knight db5 tactic in, but now what? And what I thought was, okay, black's got a couple of plans. He wants to open the center with d5. This is a move that black often wants to play in the Sicilian anyway, but especially now, like now that white's king isn't going to be able to castle. He wants to play d5 to open the center, and he wants to attack. The queen is well placed, so that assessment of the position and what my opponent wants led me to what I think was the right plan. And that plan was to try and trade queens. If the queens are traded, then the white king will no longer be in too much danger. So this comes to the next tip. The right plan comes from thinking about what your opponent wants and then forming a plan around that. I was ready for what would happen if black avoided the queen trade. Like black could play, for example, queen g6, but I think in that case I've improved the position of my queen, and I've also prevented d5 from the time being. But as it actually happened, he went for the queen trade. So I took back, Still d5 is prevented. And also I've won a tempo here. The black bishop is attacked. So he moves out of the way. And now I play a move which is almost automatic, I think, for players at my level. You want to improve pieces with tempo. So which of my pieces is not doing anything right now? Well, this dark squared bishop needs to be improved. How can I improve it? Well, I can improve it with a threat. A threat on this loose pawn on b6. As it turns out, black doesn't really have a good way to defend this pawn. You can't advance it, because then I would just take it. You could try defending it with the rook, but in that case, there's an even simpler tactic. Just advance this pawn, introduces a threat on the rook, and then once the rook moves, then you take the pawn next move. Now, even if there was a way for black to defend this pawn, I still think that bishop e3 would be a good move, because you improve a piece with tempo and you force an enemy piece to go passive. That combination is already great. The fact that black can't defend the pawn is a bonus, but honestly I didn't see all of this. Like if we go all the way back here where I offered the queen trade, I didn't see that I was going to be able to capture back, the bishop moves, and then I play here, and then this pawn is going to be undefendable. I didn't see that. I was just playing a couple of moves at a time, and that was enough. Okay. I think there is a misconception among lower rated players that master players, expert players, strong club players are able to see so many moves ahead, but I don't think that's true. I mean, I see a couple of moves ahead, but I think at the 2000 level you get quite good at the chess principles and knowing what your opponent wants. That's all. We're not seeing a crazy number of moves ahead. So knowing that he can't really defend the pawn, black just gives it up, develops instead. So I grab a pawn. So I'm a pawn up, but look, there's still work to do, right? The game is not over. You've still got to finish things off, especially against players like this, with the rating like this. They're not going to just lie down. Okay, so black attacks the bishop. That's a one-move threat. I saw this move coming, by the way, right? When I played the capture, I was ready for the move rook b8. I did see ahead that far, and I was ready. In case of rook b8, I was actually going to play bishop d4, which would have defended the b2 pawn, just to show that, right? Now that's defending. But when this was on the board, I decided that I liked c5 better. This blocks the file, and it also takes away the d8 square from black. Remember, black doesn't have a dark squared bishop. He lost that earlier when he took down here. So yeah, c5 does a good job. Also opens up this bishop. So black has to move the rook back to defend the knight. So now I just connect the rooks. Pretty simple. The rooks are seeing each other now. And now knight e8. This is a good plan by my opponent. I mean, this knight is too strong to leave where it is. And if black had another move, let's just say that I played a nothing move, then black takes, I take back, and now, maybe now this file is a bit more open. Okay, I can still defend the pawn, but black's rook is a bit more active now. So yeah, good plan from my opponent. Trade off the strong piece, the strong knight on d6. So how do I react here? So this goes to an understanding of pawn structures. I want to keep this pawn on d7 backwards if I can. Right? I don't really want to allow black the chance to play d6 or d5 in the future. And I also want to keep this pawn something that I can target, which means that if black does take on d6, I want to be able to take back with a piece. Like for example, if I defend the knight this way, and he takes and I take back, then this pawn is going to be harder for me to get at. I want to be able to play a rook here and target it, but with one of my own pawns in the way, I can't easily do that. takes away the weak square if I've got one of my own pawns on it. And so for this reason, I decided not to defend the knight with e5. Instead, I played rook h to d1. The rook wasn't really doing much on the h-file. Like, I'm not going to start an attack there. So rook h to d1. Now if black takes the knight, I can recapture with a piece and keep this pawn backward and a target. Black plays f5. I think this is the right idea for black. He's trying to open an area of the board. I mean, black is obviously very tied down on the queen side, and I'm dominant in the center with this beautiful knight, and right, like everything is perfectly placed for me on the queen side and in the center. So black is trying to get some play on the king side. And so this led me to another point which I think strong players will recognize, and that's to keep the area of the board where your opponent is trying to play closed. And for this reason, I play e5. I mean, let's just look. If I capture, black captures back, and then all of a sudden, black is a bit less tied down. He can now start to think about moving this knight out. Maybe he can get these pawns going. So I don't really want to allow that. After f5, let's just keep it closed. No reason to open up the area of the board where black is trying to play and go along with his plan. So now black does take the strong knight off on d6. I capture back with the rook, of course, since I want to keep that pawn as a target, as we already talked about. Now black plays f4. I didn't really understand that move at the time. So what I'd like to do now is I want to play b4. I want to play b4 and then b5. This would fork the two black pieces on a6 and c6 if I can get that in, if I can get the pawn all the way to b5. But after thinking and being careful, I noticed that if I did play b4, then black has the pretty simple tactic, knight takes b4. The point being I can't take back because then I lose the rook. You always have to stay tactically aware, even when you're trying to implement positional plans. You have to watch out for the tactics. I mean, this is a simple tactic maybe, but it's also easy to overlook. If you're relaxed, if you just think everything's going your way, you're a pawn up, your opponent's got no play, and then all of a sudden you play this move carelessly, and then black takes, and then it's back to anyone's game. So you always have to stay alert, stay careful. I'm sure if I had played b4 that black would have played this move in a microsecond, right? It's exactly the kind of opportunity that he's looking for to try to get back into the game. So what I did instead, after f4, I moved this rook off the file so that I can play b4 next. And then black plays a move which I wasn't expecting. He plays rook f5, attacking this pawn. I didn't see this move coming. I didn't see it coming, honestly. So when you're surprised by a move, you have to, again, stop and think. But when you're faced with a threat, the thing to do, if you can, is to introduce a bigger threat of your own, which your opponent must respond to. Which is what led me to go along with my original plan of b4. So now if black takes the pawn, I'll be able to fork the two black pieces on a6 and c6. Interestingly, it's saying, according to the computer, that black should go for this. He played knight b8 in the game, but if black had taken here and if I'd forked these two pieces, it's saying that black should give up the exchange with rook takes e2, and after king takes e2, then black wins another pawn here, and yeah, now it's saying that black's got some play. Honestly, it's a bit hard, even at this level, to go for a line like this. I think even 2000 rated, 2100 players are a bit materialistic and loath to give up the exchange like this, but I can understand it. Like, now that the computer shows it, black has freed their game somewhat. gained a couple of pawns for the exchange as well. But yeah, black didn't go for this. He saw the threat of b5 coming and instead moved his knight back. And even here, it looks like maybe I'm going to lose the pawn back. I mean, obviously black looks quite passive. This rook is on the starting square, the knight is on the starting square, but black has got two threats now. He's got rook takes e5 and he's got rook takes a3. Two threats. How do I respond to them both? The concept of indirect defense is something that strong players are always looking for. So rather than playing a move such as rook to d3 to defend this pawn, which doesn't work anyway, right? Because then black just takes the other pawn. It's like, how can I defend without directly defending? And that way of thinking allowed me to find the move played in the game. I played b5 first, and then after bishop to d5, then I played bishop to c7. So now rook takes a3 doesn't work, because then I pick up the knight. And taking on e5 doesn't work either, because then I've got this move with a discovered attack on the rook and also attacking the knight twice. So, that's a harder move to see, I think, but it's the way of thinking that I want to get across to you, right? Like when you're facing a threat, or a couple of threats in this case, it's like, how can I be clever? Like, how can I play a move which doesn't just defend the pawn, but actually defends it in a smarter way? And that's what led me to find bishop to c7. All right. So black just goes back, because the other threat that I had with that move was, let's say that black just played something else. Then I could also consider taking the knight and then picking up a second pawn. So now I'm 2 pawns up, and black wouldn't want to go for this, right? With these 3 strong connected passed pawns marching up the board, it's pretty much over. So that's what led black to instead move his rook back. I still could go for that line, by the way. I could still go for this. But I decided not to. I decided that I liked my dark squared bishop, right? It's very well placed, and this knight is horrible, keeping black cramped for space. So what I did instead was I played rook to d3. Sometimes you do have to defend directly. Sometimes you just need to take a time out. But the position that black's in here, with these pieces on the back rank, backward pawn, just everything is wrong with black's position. Down a pawn as well. I do have some time here. Like, what's black going to do? Even if you gave him a couple of moves, black doesn't really have a plan. So I do have time to just improve slowly. So that's what I did. But even in positions like this, it's important to play with a plan. And I do have a plan here. Like, how can I continue to improve? I've got one weakness, it looks like. I've got this pawn here. That's my one problem. So what I'd like to do is fix that problem, and then over the next few moves I go about doing that. Black moves his king. Okay, so what? I move the rook off a light square, right? There's some lines perhaps where there could be some problem with black going here to bishop c4, and I just don't want to have to think about that. So put the rook on a dark square, and it also allows this maneuver that you're about to see with my bishop. My idea is I want to go bishop here, and then advance this pawn. And if I can do that, then this pawn will no longer be weak. I've got to defend it in the meantime, which I did with rook d3, just defending directly against the threat of black's rook takes a3 idea. But what I want to do eventually is to free this rook, and here's how I do it. I gain another move with tempo, so black has to think about bishop takes h7. He stops that one, but then I get bishop c2 in, a backwards move, not that easy to see, but it comes from having the right plan. This maneuver, right, is all designed to play a4. Black makes a one-move threat. I mean, it's hard for him to find anything better. I mean, if you look at this position, Black can hardly move anything, right? The rook, okay, the rook could go there, I guess, but what does that do? The rook can't go to any of these other squares. The knight can't move. Literally, the knight has nowhere it can go without being captured. The rook is very passive. Right? It's just staring at this pawn. Remember before how I closed the king side? This is one effect of this, that there's no open lines here. So Black really has no play. The bishop might look good, but it's not targeting anything. So yeah, Black is completely paralyzed here. So he makes a one-move threat. Okay, I move out of the way of that one. He is just shuffling pieces at this point, has nothing else to do. I play at a4 and Black resigned. Is that a premature resignation? I don't think so. I mean, I'm only a pawn up, only one pawn up. But what's coming is a5, a6, a7. And if I get the pawn to a7, then the knight, again, has absolutely nowhere it can move. And it's just impossible to see how Black's going to stop that. I mean, in the final position, I'm up one pawn, but I'm in a +5 evaluation, according to the computer. Complete positional domination, and my opponent decided to resign rather than play this position on. So I hope that's given you some insight as to how I think and what it takes to beat 2000 rated players. I want to go back to the start of the game and do a quick recap of all 10 of the points which I discussed in this video. So the first moment was here after Queen c7. The lesson was to know your opening theory. If you want to beat 2000 rated players, you have to put the work in. You need to study the openings. A move like a3 to prevent bishop b4 comes from prior study. The next moment was after Black had played bishop to d6. Usually 2000 rated players will allow one or two such moments in a game, and when it comes, you have to be ready for it. If I play anything else, like if I just play something slow and I don't recognize the tactical opportunity that's there, then Black is probably doing very well. The only plan that sees me gain an advantage is to spot the opportunity that's there, and you need to be careful when you do so, right? So when the tactical opportunity is there, grab it, but take the time to calculate first. Next one. So after White's king has lost the right to castle, the right plan comes from the right assessment. I recognized here that I've got some king safety trouble and Black wants to play d5. Those two factors together led me to the idea of queen d6, offering the queen trade. Next one. You always want to develop pieces with tempo if given the chance. So that led me to the move bishop e3, a move which improves a piece with a threat. Next one. The understanding of pawn structures. I think one thing that distinguishes stronger players from beginners and intermediate players is an understanding of pawn structures. This is an element of the board which maybe beginners don't even see, but advanced players do notice things like backward pawns and want to keep weak pawns in place. That's what led me to play rook d1, so that when Black eventually captured on d6, I could recapture with a piece and keep this pawn weak. The next moment was here, after Black is attempting to open the king side with f5. And the lesson there was that you want to keep the position closed in the area of the board that your opponent's trying to play. Remember, I'm strong on the queen side, I'm strong in the center. Black's trying to play on the king side, but that's why I kept it closed. The next moment was here, where you always have to be tactically aware. I wanted to play b4, and to be honest, I almost did. But I held myself back just to do a double check. I have the time, right? Like, I'm not down on time. I can be careful, because player moves such as this, Black will take, and then it's back to an equal game, right? Black has got plenty of chances, and don't want to allow that. So even when you're trying to implement positional plans, stay tactically aware. That's what led me to, instead, after f4, get the rook out of the way so that I could play b4 next. Next moment was here. After rook f5, I responded to the threat with a bigger threat. This is always the way that you should play, right? When facing a threat from your opponent, the last thing you want to do is go passive. I mean, sometimes you have to, of course, but whenever there's the opportunity to seize the initiative, you should always do that. So respond to a threat with a bigger threat when you can. Then the concept of indirect defense. This is the moment where Black is threatening two things at the same time, and I was able to deal with both of them effectively with one move. And neither of the pawns are defended directly with the move bishop to c7, right? The bishop is not defending this pawn. The bishop is not defending this pawn. But in a funny way, it kind of is, because both of these moves are now prevented. Remember, that one's prevented due to this, and this one's prevented due to this. So look for indirect defenses. That's how strong players think. And just that mindset should get you thinking in the right way. And then here was the final moment where, even in positions where everything seems to be going great, you still need to always play with a plan. And that was where we went with the bishop d3, bishop c2 to enable a4, and getting rid of that one remaining weakness in my position, this a3 pawn, which the black rook was targeting. By playing with a plan, I was able to provoke resignation, because black had just had enough, just completely suffocated, and yeah, resigned rather than play on. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below, like what the biggest lesson that you got out of it was. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this, and drop a like if you liked it. Above all, I hope that this helps improve your own play. Remember, these 2000 rated players are not weaklings. They've got to a high level through a lot of practice, but I think anyone can learn how to do it if you just have the right mindset and you apply some of the lessons that you learned in this video. Okay, so once again, hope that helps. Let me know how it goes. Good luck with your chess, and bye for now.